Hey everybody, my name is Ed. So, today we're going to do another trade review. This one's going to be Wonder Woman Earth 1 Volume 2 by Grant Morrison and Yannick Paquette. And I think the colors are by Nathan Fairbairn. Um, Wonder Woman. Well, actually, let's start here. Excuse me. The Earth 1 series. Is a series of original graphic novels featuring modern revamps of DC's major superheroes. Comparable to Marvel's now defunct Ultimate line, DC's published books starring Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Teen Titans, Green Lantern, etc. Basically, the point is to, like I said, revamp the characters, do more modern spins, different takes on these characters. Wonder Woman for DC has been an interesting property. She's been one of the few superheroes that's been consistently published since the 40s, and she is internationally known. She is an internationally known pop icon that symbolizes various aspects of female empowerment. For decades, excuse me, there's been a number of different approaches and changes in direction for the character. And while the merchandise and cultural recognition for Wonder Woman has generally remained high, the actual comic book sales have fluctuated over the years. The problem, I think, is less them not being able to write interesting Wonder Woman stories, but more how to sell them in increasingly narrow and fickle direct sales market. So now the premise let's start here. So, like in Volume 1, this story begins with a flashback. The story begins during World War II, excuse me, Amazonia or Paradise Island is under attack by Baroness von Gunther and some Nazi soldiers. Queen Hippolyta and the Amazons defeat the invaders. They send the men away, but they keep von Gunther to teach her the ways of the Amazons and loving submission. Then we cut to the present. Wonder Woman is famous. She has tons of fans. She's on magazine covers. She gives college lectures. However, some people in the American public aren't quite convinced of Wonder Woman's peaceful mission. Some in the military are fearful of the idea of Amazon warriors with advanced technology, and they wonder if they should take military action against the Amazons. At this point, we meet Dr. Psycho, who Wonder Woman saves from terrorists. Uh, she and him become friends as the military begins ramping up something called Project Ares. Meanwhile, something odd is happening with Baroness von Gunther, who's somehow been living on the island since World War II. Most of the cast from the first volume make reappearances. We see Diana, her mother Queen Hippolyta, Nubia, who I guess is her mother's wife, uh, excuse me, Etta Candy and Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor really doesn't have a whole lot to do in this story. And like I said, we're introduced to new villains, Dr. Psycho and Paula Van Gunther. Somebody else you probably recognize from, if you're a big DC Comics fan, makes an appearance here as well. But I won't give that one. I won't give that cameo away. So now Grant has said in previous interviews, or I should say interviews previous to the release of Volume 1, that he wanted to go back to the roots of the Golden Age series and kind of modernize the character, as well as make some of the sexual subtext that's present in those comics and just put them out in the main text, make deal more frankly with those ideas and themes. So now the first volume was a lot more about kind of female empowerment and sexual openness. This volume seems to be more about how the broader world deals with empowered women. Some people in the story embrace Wonder Woman, some people are intimidated by her, others don't quite believe her. Other things, the idea that compassion is a strength is important to the story. It's still a force to be believed in. And while words like excuse me, loving authority and submission are used a few times, the BDSM themes that were present in the first volume, they're kind of downplayed here. Also, of course, the importance of female friendships and family relationships are a big deal as well. Now, while it's a fun read, it does have some flaws. The first thing that comes to mind is Grant's characterization of Diana. excuse me, she's young, she's a little bit cocky, a little bit out of place, and it isn't bad per se, but it doesn't quite click for me personally with how I think Wonder Woman should speak at. Excuse me, which is funny given how I have no problems with how Grant Morrison wrote Wonder Woman when he was writing JLA some years ago. There's also some pacing issues. I think there's a lot going on. Well, there is a lot going on, I should say, with Dr. Psycho, the military. There's the Von Gunther subplot, and all the threads do come together and are mostly resolved. But the ending feels like, excuse me, the ending feels like there's almost too much packed into it at once. I'm also not sure Grant was able to successfully weave his ideas about gender and compassion and submission and whatnot in a way that, in a I hate to use the word organic because I think it's overused, but he doesn't. It doesn't seem like he was able to weave those ideas and themes organically into the story. I mean, there's a lot of concepts that seem kind of like stuck on because he just thought they should be in a Wonder Woman comic. They don't really feel like they grew naturally from the plot. I do think it was a good idea to have various people in the story question Diana about her mission. However, Grant doesn't always have her give great answers. I did really like the main villains. Paula von Gunther is a real interesting foe. She's kind of a female supervillain, but one who's driven by a desire for conquest rather than compassion. She's kind of like the dark mirror to the other Amazons. I really think she could actually be revived in modern times if she hasn't already, with the rise of neo-Nazism, the alt-right, and whatnot. It would make perfect sense to me. I also like this take on Dr. Psycho as he's in the past he's been like the misogynist, again, yeah, that's what I want to say. The misogynist supervillain again, who's there to tear down Wonder Woman. Here, he's like part psyops agent, part pickup artist, and while he's not physically imposing, he's like, the most dangerous person here just because of his brain, just because he's dangerous mentally. It's interesting that while there is some mind control involved, most of the harm he's able to cause is really just through manipulation and misdirection and things like that. Let's look at some of the art. The art is really good. Yannette, the coloring is really nice. Excuse me. Yannette Paquette does some really great figure work. He does some kind of interesting things here with the kind of panel layouts and some interesting noodling around with the borders and things. Okay. Um, yeah, he just kind of really is really a lot of it's there to just kind of jazz it up. But like I said, for the most part, it works. It doesn't get really too confusing. And like I said, or I haven't said before, but it kind of works. It's kind of smooth, curvy lines and things like that. It kind of does have, for lack of a better word, or no, not lack of a better word, I'll say it, kind of this kind of feminine feel to it, this feminine aesthetic. That's what I want to say. Kind of this feminine aesthetic, and it works. It kind of, it works as far giving as far rip throttler main grill. It kind of ties into the whole idea of these feminine traits, softness, compassion, nurturing, as these being powerful and positive traits. So it's a pretty cool double spread there. Oh, here's an example of what I was talking about as far as people questioning Wonder Woman's mission and ideology and stuff. So a student or somebody says, There's a lot of stuff on social media about how you dress provocatively and promote an unrealistic body type, which is basically setting a bad example for women. I mean, the stuff you do is amazing and all. It's just that, does any of this criticism bother you? And Diana's reply is, I don't think there's any such thing as an unrealistic body shape. My own body is a result of diet, exercise, and sophisticated genetic engineering. Otherwise, I dress as I please. So, like I said, I think that's a good thing here, a good take, an interesting question. But that's not really a great answer. It really doesn't address whether or not she really is setting up unrealistic body types. I mean, it's something. Body image is something that a lot of women have to deal with, and in some cases causes them to self harm. Men deal with it as well, in a slightly different way. But she doesn't really give a real good answer, and she doesn't really give a good answer to whether or not she's dressing provocatively or not, and if that's a good thing or a bad thing for society as well. I dress like you as I like. Well, obviously you do, but is that necessarily a good thing? That's Grant doesn't have her give a really good answer. Um, Here's a recreation of that famous pose from first issue of Golden Age Wonder Woman. Excuse me. And a candy. Um, let's see here. I want to show something else here. Here we are in the Middle East. And here she is wearing a Wonder Woman burqa, which is interesting. I have maybe one of these days in the future, we'll talk about the Alex Ross Paul Dini Wonder Woman story called Peace. That was another thing that was another story that took an interesting take on Wonder Woman and how people around not just in America, but around the world deal with her. There's a scene in that comic where, there's a plot twist there. I don't want to give that away. But there's a scene in that comic where she comes to save some people in the Middle East, and then all the women start throwing rocks at her, because they see this half naked lady wearing a suit based on the American flag, you know. So it's like, hey, we don't want you coming here to save us. And like I said, I just thought it was an interesting take. Again, how the character actually has to deal with things culturally in the universe that she lives in. So, all right, I don't want to give too. Ooh, no, I don't want to show that way. But I don't want to give too much away here. Uh, Here's some. Oh, no, I better not show that stuff. There's some really good action scenes here. Like I said, I don't want to give them away too much because, yeah, I don't want to give too much of the plot away. So, I guess that is. Oh, here. Let me just show you. Here's some concept art, which is pretty fun. It's pretty interesting. Here's some sketches. This stuff here is pretty cool, I think. The Wonder Burqa. There's some armor and stuff. All right, and I think that's basically. Now here's some concepts for the covers. We actually do see this scene from the inside of the comic. All right, and that's basically it. So I got to thank you all very much for watching, and everybody have a good day.